So Dwayne Haskins played in his second preseason game, and I thought that statistically he definitely played a lot better. I mean, he didn't have the 2 interceptions that he had in his first preseason game, and while he did have a fumble in this one, it honestly probably shouldn't have been ruled a fumble in my opinion. But, just looking at the numbers, 7 for 14 with 144 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, that's definitely a bright spot. But again, as I mentioned last time, statistics only tell part of the story, and I actually thought that he played pretty much as well this game as he did last game. I think people just freaked out too much over a couple of bad throws last game, when the reality is in the preseason, you are supposed to sling it a little bit. I mean, that's the point of the preseason, kind of see what you can and can't get away with at the NFL level. That's kind of why people say the preseason doesn't matter, because, sometimes you'll just say, you know what, hey, let's see if I can make this throw. Okay, no, I can't make that throw. Now I know. Now in the regular season, I won't make that throw. Like, I know you see this in spring training sometimes in baseball, where a pitcher has a new pitch they're working on, and so they'll use that pitch a lot in preseason, but since it's their worst pitch, then they'll give up a lot more hits and a lot more home runs than they usually do. So then everyone will say, oh, hey, look, this pitcher in spring training isn't doing as good. But then once the regular season comes around, they're still playing just as well. But then once the regular season comes around, well, now they're actually still playing even better than they used to, because they still have the talent they used to, but now they have a new pitch. But yeah, statistics-wise, he did play better, and he also just had some better big throws, and I won't bury the lead. We'll talk about his touchdown right off the bat, because it was a fun play to talk about. It's going to be man coverage on this one, and what Washington is going to do is have those 2 receivers run those 2 routes right there, and basically Haskins should just look at those 2 routes and see who is more open. That's where he's going to look, and as you see, he's going to get hit while he's thrown, but look at the separation. I know this isn't probably my best breakdown, but again, there's no all-22 footage for preseason, so I kind of have to just go off of what I have. But anyways, what was impressive about this play, in my opinion, was the fact that Haskins, while getting hit, so he wasn't able to step up into the pocket, is still going to have to make this throw, despite there being not much separation. I mean, there's some separation for sure. I shouldn't say not much, but not a ton of separation. I mean, this isn't a wide open situation. It's a throw Haskins should make if he has a clean pocket, but with the pressure he's been given, I mean, that's a tough throw to make. But of course, he is going to make it, and they get a touchdown out of it. I mean, that's why Dwayne Haskins was drafted. Daniel Jones, I think, is a very good player. Daniel Jones does not make that play. I mean, it just has to be mentioned. In fact, there's plenty of starting level quarterbacks who don't make that play. That's a tough athletic play to make, but Haskins made it. That is one of those things that impresses me with Haskins, and honestly just continues to impress me with Haskins. The guy is such an athlete. I mean, his arm talent is off the charts, and he's actually surprisingly athletic when it comes to moving around. One of his negatives going into the draft was his footwork inside the pocket kind of was less than stellar from time to time, which was a fair criticism, and could still be a fair criticism. We haven't seen too much of it in the preseason. However, when this guy has to move, and when he has to throw on the run and things like that, he absolutely can, and this play will be an example, where the way it's going to work for Washington is they're going to run play action up to the top half of the screen, but their tight end will be pulling over to the bottom half of the screen, and so will Haskins, and he will throw it to try to hit that tight end. And as you see, I think Haskins actually probably didn't have to continue running on this play, if I'm being honest. There's no Cincinnati Bengal in the area, and hey, if you're getting ready to throw the ball, I mean, there's no harm in just stopping and making a better throw. But that's just my opinion, and it would have been a more difficult angle, so I do get the flip side of it. If you've watched a lot of my videos, I'm sure you've heard me bring this up. It's one of the things that drives me crazy in young quarterbacks is the guys that don't get their feet planted as much as they should. Granted, Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys who doesn't get his feet planted as much as he should, and he threw for 50 touchdowns last year, so, I guess I shouldn't harp on it too much, but it is a little thing that bothers me. But you know what will make me not mind it? Making a very good throw on a run, honestly a perfect throw on a run, which led to a first down. And so while it is a little thing that does bother me, at the end of the day, you make the play and I won't care. I won't criticize you for making a play. I'll nitpick it, sure, but I won't criticize you. You got the first down? Okay, good play. End of story. One thing I do like about Haskins is the fact that this guy can make any throw, and he can make any throw well. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this guy has a great deep ball, and this play will be an example of it. It's going to be a cover one hole, and to have a receiver running that route right there, so okay, it could get open, but it is going to take a little bit of time for it to develop, because the receiver will have to get past the linebacker and safety who are in the middle of the field. So for Haskins, if he has time to make a throw in that direction, then it is something he could look to do. And as you see, once he fakes his play action, he is going to have time, and so he is going to make a throw in that direction. And if you see right now, I've paused it, it's a little blurry. Again, I'm going to blame the no all-22 footage for that thing, but as you see, there is a little bit of separation. He has maybe a 2 or 3 foot window that he can make this throw through, and it's almost a completion, and in my opinion, it probably should have been a completion. I would blame that more on the receiver than Haskins. I'm sorry, if you can get both your hands on it, you can catch the ball. That's just my opinion. It was far from a bad play. Maybe the throw could have been 6 inches lower, but it definitely wasn't a bad throw by any means. He gave his receiver a shot to make a play, is what I'm saying, and you can only control what you can control. The player had a chance to make a play, he just didn't. That's something I try to look at with these plays, and not necessarily just showing the plays where they're able to get conversions and able to get completions. Sometimes the quarterback does his job and someone else isn't able to make their part of the play. That happens. And sometimes the quarterback makes an okay throw and it's not able to be a completion. I try not to be results oriented in my analysis of these kind of things. Sometimes just things don't break out the way you expect them to. I don't think Haskins deserves any more or less credit because the receiver wasn't able to make a relatively tough catch, in my opinion. And watch, this next play will be another example of that, where it's going to be a cover 3 zone. What the Redskins are doing is they're going to have a receiver run that route up to the top half of the screen. And so it can be a pretty good way, if that receiver can't get past the safeties up to the top half of the screen, he could potentially have good leverage, and this definitely could be a route that Haskins could look to throw to. It's something he could look to throw to. And the really good thing about this route is Haskins should know before too long whether it's going to be open or not. This shouldn't be a route that he's going to have to wait a long time before seeing, oh, okay, it is open. And I'll explain what I mean right when this ball is snapped. As you see right now, his receiver is already pretty much adjacent with the safety. So at this point, Haskins likes what he sees, and he already knows I'm making a throw in that direction. He's already made his mind up. And that's good because also if the safety was further deep, then Haskins could easily say, okay, I don't want to throw it in that direction. So he can easily quickly make his mind up on this play. And so as you see, once he makes this throw, there definitely is some separation here. However, Haskins does kind of miss this throw a little bit too low. Now granted, that was still a very catchable ball, and that easily should have been defensive pass interference. The fact that that was called offensive pass interference is one of the worst calls I have ever seen. And I'm also just a little confused as to, if we're not going to overturn that, then what are we going to overturn really? I guess nothing. I mean, that was challenged and upheld as offensive pass interference, and all the receiver did was go up and try to get the ball. I mean, I've seen that play called defensive pass interference 100 times, and I've seen it get called offensive pass interference exactly 1 time. One of the weirdest calls I've ever seen. I'm usually not one to complain about the refs' calls because, luck is a part of the game. I get all of that. But at the end of the day, that was just a bad call. It just was. And again, I'm not going to harp on it too much. People make bad calls. Refs make bad calls. But that's kind of an inexcusable one, in my opinion. But hey, I guess that sort of joke, it's preseason for the refs, comes into play too. I don't know. Anyways, it is just a preseason, so I guess I shouldn't really care. So let's just move on. Now, these next couple of plays are just ones that kind of stuck out to me, not necessarily in a good or a bad way, but just kind of fascinating plays, and I'll start off with this one. They're going to have a receiver run about right there, and that is where Haskins is going to look to throw to, but take a look at what's going to happen once this ball is snapped and the play develops. I mean, he's wide open right now. I mean, wide open. You don't get much more open than this. And if you see Haskins, he's already in throwing motion. He sees that his receiver is open, he's timing this one perfectly, and he's ready to make a play. But unfortunately for him, a Cincinnati defensive lineman is going to just stick his hand up and just knock the ball down. Kind of unfortunate. So do I blame Haskins? Maybe a little. I mean, sometimes you would like to see guys get more three-dimensional and kind of get it past the line in a way. But at the end of the day, you do kind of just have to focus on making your throws. So I wouldn't really blame him for that one at all. I would kind of just chalk that one up to, hey, good defensive plays, sometimes it happens. But the real reason I'm bringing it up is because of the next play where something similar is going to happen. It's going to be a cover 2 zone. What Washington is doing is they're going to have a halfback run right over there, and he'll kind of just get below the flat on the bottom half of the screen. They can pick up some yards on this play. It's a 2nd down and 10. They want to create a 3rd down and short. That's the whole point of this play. But what you'll see once this ball is snapped and the play develops is that while there definitely is an opening, I mean, Haskins can once again easily make this throw. But once again, there is a Cincinnati player who's kind of in the way. There's a lineman and Cincinnati player who are in the way of that halfback. So while many quarterbacks would be in a throwing motion right now, Haskins actually is looking a little three-dimensional. He waits an extra half second and then makes the throw. Granted, the throw could have been a little bit higher up, but I'm nitpicking there. But I was impressed with the fact that he kind of just literally one play after it said, oh, right, pay attention to the offensive lineman and defensive lineman. And then the next play, he did that. That's a high IQ play if I've ever seen one. Knowing where the offensive and defensive linemen are, knowing that you have time to wait, so he waited an extra half second and then made the throw. A lot of guys would have still just made the throw when they felt like making the throw and just hope it doesn't get batted down. And I even said that's not really Haskins' fault. Sometimes a batted ball just happens. You can try to control these angles as much as you want, but it's not always going to work the way you want it to most of the time. But the fact that he still will realize, especially after a ball already getting batted up, oh right, yeah, maybe I should pay a little bit more attention to that, and then he does pay a little bit more attention to that and make a high IQ play. I mean, you love to see that if you're a Redskins fan. One last play I liked, one thing you'll notice before this ball is even snapped, is that Washington has a tight end who's going to be moving over through the bottom half of the screen on this play. And one fascinating thing you'll also see is that nobody is following him right now, which is actually pretty interesting, because typically that would tell you that it's zone coverage. However, this is actually man coverage, and they're kind of just going to accept the fact that a linebacker will be a little bit out of position, and they're going to try to get Haskins to make a throw that he probably shouldn't make. But of course, the trade-off is that linebacker, who's now supposed to be covering at tight end, isn't in the position he's supposed to be in position, so to speak. And that's actually really key because of the concept that Washington is running. What they're going to do is have their 2 receivers on the bottom half of the screen both kind of break into the middle of the screen, and then their tight end will run out to the bottom half of the screen, and that's where Haskins should try to make a throw to. And so for Cincinnati, the linebacker in charge of covering a tight end is going to be all the way up there, so that's definitely an advantage for a tight end who already has a head start. And so what you'll see once this ball is snapped is once again very similar to that last play where Haskins has a clear shot to hit his tight end. But also, once again, there definitely is a defensive lineman who's in the way. So Haskins can't just line drive this one. He's going to have to float it over to offensive lineman, but still try to get it to tight end as quick as possible. But that's exactly what he's able to do. The tight end is able to run over a defensive back who kind of tried to get into that play, and they get very close to the first down. And they're able to pick up a good gain on that one. So, just a good throw from Haskins. Again, another high IQ play and another three-dimensional thinking, so to speak. Haskins is really good in my opinion. I think he's a really good player. That's why I said I would have taken him over Kyler Murray. I know people kind of mocked me at the time, but it's what I think. I think he's a more complete player. That's not a knock on Murray. That's credit to Haskins. I think they're both great. I even like Daniel Jones. I like most players, let's be honest. But I'm also not going to freak out about just one preseason game. I said the first preseason game, hey, it's just a preseason game. You're going to make some mistakes and you're going to make some good plays. And in the second preseason game, I thought he played pretty much about as well, actually. But yeah, that's what I thought. I thought he played well. I thought he's had a couple of pretty promising preseason games, and he's definitely showing that he can make some mistakes, but he can learn from his mistakes, which is what I really care to see. It's the preseason. Make some mistakes. That's what it's for. At least that's my opinion. I'd like to know what you guys think, and as always, thanks for watching.